Key thing is no matter what, they've got to be profitable. It's so vitally important. So we need to sort of increase the highest chance of success possible. And coming in with facts and data and research really helps for us like solidify that. It could be ultimate personalization. It could be the opulence part. I think it's really defining, like, some people will want to be truly like left alone because that anything they'll have all the service, everything else, but they want that autonomy. Other people want to be waited on hand and foot, fed grapes, waving with a fan. They want that part there. That's luxury to them. To define that, it is sort of, obviously the brand has their own perception of luxury, but it's also knowing the guest as well.
This is Hospitality Huddles, bringing you the best conversations in hotel food and beverage.
Manage, lead, coach, repeat.
Every time I think of hospitality, I think of friendship. Hospitality allows you to be you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hospitality Huddles. Really excited today because I've got a gentleman on who I've been watching his LinkedIn posts for a while now and taken lots of inspiration, especially following my talk in Las Vegas around how the modern guest is influencing change, especially in a luxury environment. Oliver on the show with me today has kind of got that down to a T. So, Oliver, thank you very much for joining us today. It's really cool to have you on.
Scott, thank you so much. It's amazing to be here. I'm excited for all our conversations today. Big time.
Brilliant. So we're talking today in London and in Singapore. So do you want to give everyone watching just a little bit of background around you, what you're doing in the design space as well?
Please, but I would love to. So again, thank you so much. So I'm Oliver Corrin. So I'm the creative director at ADG, but I'm specializing in strategy and in branding. So for me, I actually started off my creative journey as an interior designer within F&B and hospitality for about a decade. Honestly, for me, something just always felt like it was missing a bit. It was always felt like there, and I don't know what it was. And I think when generally my roles were changing, and I sort of got more into the brand part. And I guess it's more about like I fanatically, like, I love meeting people. I'm one of those like terrible people on a plane where I will talk to people, and my wife gets me just so angry at me because I just talk to people because I love hearing their story. I just love connecting with people and just understanding them, and I think that's a big thing. And then I got more into branding. I've always loved the whole idea of branding and the psychology behind it. And that's when it kind of, my old thing sort of morphed and changed. And then I started to work more in the branding world. And that's when it all just came together for me personally. And I think like now, I've been fortunate to be with some great brands in the past, including like sort of Latitude, also Black Sheep restaurants in Hong Kong, which I learned so much from, particularly on the idea of like guest-centric, like service and storytelling was on another level. And now with EDG, who we specialize in hospitality and F&B, and it's one of those things where, so for me, like that's where I've kind of come to today. But and I can kind of, people ask me what I do on paper, but really, like when I say describe what I do, for me, it's about truly understanding people and like how to create impact on in their lives, even in a tiny way. I think that's the big thing. It's about helping to work with brands to make that small impact, whether it's through a dedicated restaurant or an F&B operator or an owner, whichever it may be. I think that's what gets me really excited, is just knowing how we can truly create impact if it's through design or through experience. And it's something I've become quite obsessed with. I'm the geek in the office as well. I love data. It's not a case of I'm doing the whole I believe. Like for me, it's always about like data and analysis to be able to translate that through to something which is real. But on that point, I'm going to stop because I could keep going.
We've got lots to talk about.
A lot about other things to talk about.
For sure. And it's funny talking about data and analytics and how that can define what a brand and a story becomes, because we do very similar when we're starting out on our kind of concept development projects as well. We very much focus on the data and the local area first, really trying to delve in. We acquire data. We look at how much we can get in terms of how people are interacting around where the space of that restaurant or hotel is going to be. And that really does sometimes define where a direction goes, doesn't it? I heard a thing of going, sometimes you shouldn't not ignore your gut, but I think your gut
Yeah.
instinct backed with data is actually a real superpower that can define direction moving forwards.
I think, as you say, it helps justify, because the whole thing is, I think, quite a like, some creative can be, it's more about their personal vision or their feeling, which is fine. And I think that, as you say, I think it's really important to follow that gut there, but you've got to back it up. Because the one thing I bring it back to for me as well, personally, as we do here at EDG, is that like these are all businesses. Key thing is no matter what, they've got to be profitable. It's so vitally important. So we need to sort of increase the highest chance of success possible. And coming in with facts and data and research really helps for us like solidify that. I think there's like that. But then the other big like is my North Star is the guest. It always comes back to them, no matter who it is at the helm, because also that is the most important part of this. I think I talk about this as well, is that too often we design for boardrooms and CEOs and chairs, and the thing is, all those things which they're very emotionally invested in that, and I understand, because a lot comes, their lifestyle and everything else comes from the profits, comes from the the cost of the share price, etc. I get it. At the same time, that profit are people. Yeah. And by making it about the guest is the most important. Even if it needs to be for obviously the longevity and the success of the business, we need to still make it seem, or at least the narrative should be in the best guest-centric, we should be in the interest of them for long-term success. So that's the thing that I'm very passionate about, bringing it back to the guest always.
It's a really strong message. I couldn't agree more with you on that one. I think I think I might have actually posted it on my on a LinkedIn post today. Actually, is saying like, don't build for the stakeholders, build for the guests. Right? It's really important. I think it's a cool message. I'm going to start with a really broad question now, and then we'll niche it down from there. Okay. How is luxury changing with what's happening in the modern world, the modern guest changing, what they expect from luxury, how they want to experience luxury, what luxury means to them? How's it, in very broad terms, how is it changing? And then I've got a few bits where we're going to niche down into little bits.
Nice. No, I like that. So it is very broad, and I like that. But I think for me, I'll always bring to like, what is luxury is the trickiest question, because like, who, for me, and I'll bring it back to who's your guest. If we're talking about going into the Rosewood, or if we're going into the Hoxton or Ace, or whoever, Ace Hotel, maybe there's such a varied thing of, and it's such a perception of what luxury is. So I always bring it back to that, is what is their perception of luxury, and like, what is luxury to them? Some people, it might be extreme. If you look in Dubai, like they like to push the mass opulence and its size and grandeur and materiality, and it's more very surface based like that. They love that there. But then you might go to Amman, and it's going to be completely different. This like the way that look, and there's maybe more service focused than that part there, what's coming from the team and that experience. So I think that is one of the biggest ones. You've got, and I will say this, I bang this drum with it, you've got to know what your guest defines. Not you, like not the board or whoever might be on it. It's the guest's part. And again, also, but the thing is though, that also true to this as well, is what your brand as well. So I think it's like, it's a two-part thing. Like, we did work with a lot of soft brands here, where we're developing whole hotels from scratch. Yeah. And it's about defining that brand and what it like is. Then but you've got to understand who's the target guest, right? That's where we begin. And then we can know, well, where's the positioning for this brand? Where's the white space in the market? And again, it's understanding. And I'm a big believer in this. I do not believe that anyone needs to have a competitor. Honestly, if you know the way your white space is and you could identify it, you can own that space, and you can coexist with other brands that are similar to you. Because if you know and you niche down, people will find you, and the algorithms are amazing at this now on Instagram. The more specific niche you are, the more likely you'll find your guest. Yeah, and you can own that space, and then from there. So an example, it's not hospitality. Easy example, Nokia. Remember back in the day, the 3210. They dominated in the early 90s, they dominated the market by, I think it was around like 75%. Apple came out, did the iPhone. What did they do? They tried to compete, and it absolutely killed them. But I honestly think if they just stayed in their lane and they did what they did best, it was like they're affordable, fun, accessible phones. I think if they'd done that, they could have, like, who knows if they'd still around today, but I still think they could have done a lot better for a lot longer. So I'm a big believer in that. And then of course the next thing is owning that story. What story is going to resonate with your guests? So and then obviously, as we say, it goes back to, but bring it back to a question. So to go down a rabbit hole there. I think like really the luxury, it could be the fact of like true autonomy. It could be ultimate personalization. It could be the opulence part. I think it's really defining, like, some people will want to be truly like left alone, because that, and they think they'll have all the service, everything else, but they want that autonomy. Other people want to be waited on hand and foot, fed grapes, waving with a fan. They want that part there. That's luxury to them. So I think it's like, it is one of those things where, to define that, it is a sort of, obviously the brand has their own perception of luxury, but it's also knowing the guest as well.
Yeah, that's it's a really good one. I think one of your posts that struck me the most is when you said about most hotels designed for luxury, the best design for freedom. And this was it was a really good one for me, because at the time, I think I was doing an event and I was speaking at the event and I was talking about curation and about how now curation has become such a big part of life through what we can do every day on the iPhone and Netflix, Amazon, Spotify, you name it. We can curate how we want to experience things, even down to the point of, if I want my phone light or dark, I can flip it. And in hotels, I think we were so fortunate for so long to be able to tell people how to experience our spaces, that now when we're trying to tell people how to experience, they're going, hang on a minute, what, you don't have a toggle on and off if I want to speak to someone or I don't want to speak to someone. So this really resonated with me. Tell people a little bit more about the kind of the basis to this to that statement of the best design for freedom.
I think it came from Rory Sutherland, if you know him, sort of the big man at Ogilvy.
Listen to him a lot, yeah.
So yeah, I do as well. I love the way he is. It's fantastic. And he was, and again, it was the story he shared about, I think it was an intercon in America, and the fact that one of the things you could do, you could pay a bit extra on the booking, and you could choose where your room was located, nearer to the pool, or the gym, or the bar. And it was that idea of autonomy. And the thing is, actually, people really truly paid for this service. And I think, and it kind of got me thinking a lot more about this. And when I, it's something that we look at a lot with the work that we do. And I think guests want the autonomy. They want to lead. And the thing is, it's very hard for brands to let the guests lead, because they're like, no, but we have to be making, we need to like do everything. And again, it's like, and I honestly, I talk about a lot of things that sometimes they are contradicting, but again, we're talking about many different guests. There is not just one definition of this. So it's about how we can talk about multiple case scenarios of, like, the ones are like, I'm a firm believer in training teams to be able to sort of truly anticipate, but then if you anticipate, but then you're also wanting the guests to lead, it's like kind of one of those things of like sort of the margins of which is which. So I think like the thing is like when what you really have to think, I'm kind of a believer, is that they want to have like relevant choice, when it comes, maybe it's the menu, like, maybe there's like the menu offerings, there's like micro freedoms, if it's like a fixed tasting menu with 2-3 personable like elements, or maybe they lead rituals, if it's like a DIY Negroni station, or sort of like those kind of things there. I think it's sort of also like, even like the all day dining, we're talking about F&B, it could be, it could be more of a home kitchen, like really bringing that thing up. It's not like the service line and the guest and the chef. It's like literally open it up a bit more. And it's more of a, like, it's a performative, like, it's not like performative plating, but open access casual rhythm, but still done in that way. So I think it's kind of like, I think for me is like, we have to like know when to do it. It's not like all like to be all like chaos, but it's like, where can we, and again, like what will make the most impact by letting them lead as well, like that, whether it is through F&B or whether it's more like, it's like I loved at the Four Seasons Otomashi in Japan, like when one of the big experiences there was my 4-year-old daughter at the time did an experience with them where she went and did she made up a room, and that was her, like, that was letting her lead that. It gives experience, but she went in and she worked with the housekeeping team. They like made the bed and they'd like make up the room and all that part there. And she was leading that whole thing. And that's more of a set kind of scripted like experience for sure. As a kid, it would be, but it's an example. But for my daughter, it was mind blowing. Like she got to do all that. And again, got super distracted. But again, it's like whether it's like a child or whether it's an adult, like we just talked to those examples, it's just like letting them lead more in their stay and depict their experience a bit when they can, I think is really powerful.
Yeah. I think when I read this, it got me thinking a lot around certain conversations I have sometimes about room service. And this is a real micro level now, but the number of times I have conversations with not just room service, actually, the lounge is another example. I was having a conversation with a GM from a 5-star hotel, pretty iconic hotel in London, and we were talking about the kind of freedom of choice. And the room service one is really obvious for me. They having a QR code there where they can order from a really great UX designed platform with beautiful pictures of the food. They can go on there. They can do it nice and easy, or the telephone. And some people want to just go online and book online and do it. Some people want to ring and speak to someone. The one in the lounge was pay at table. And we were having a conversation around my opinion on this is no one likes to wait to pay. So why would you not try and streamline that process? Because it's going to enhance the experience. Now, some people might want to sit there and wait, and they might want to wait for the guy to come over with the credit card machine and pay, but others might be happy to just go on a QR code on the receipt, scan it, pay, and leave. Like for me as a business traveler, I always think I'd much rather pay online through somewhere where I'll get the receipt on my emails because it's easier for me to upload into the accounting software and things like that. And that's my choice as a consumer, whereas others are quite happy to sit there and it's part of the lazy afternoon that they might be having and they're quite happy to wait. And his opinion on that was that he wasn't 5-star to have a QR code. And my question back to him was, what is 5-star? Because I always imagine 5-star luxury being there at the guest's needs, being there for what the guest wants and delivering on those expectations. And if a guest doesn't want to wait 10, 15 minutes for someone to come and pay, surely that's 5-star service, and it's our duty almost to deliver on that. And it really made me think when I saw your post, it kind of got me thinking, even just the small little bits that maybe we ignore because we've got this kind of mindset of it's not 5-star. I think we have to start adapting in terms of
5-star as well
experience.
doesn't mean luxury, or I know this is not 5-star does not mean luxury as well sometimes. And to answer your thing, like I think it really depends. I think it really does. So like, I think an example of your car, I have this debate a lot, and I'm not for or against that. I just want to say I'm totally in the middle. Like what, because I hear this that the fact that QR codes aren't luxury. And I think, the way I think about it sometimes is that when you have like the likes of a QR code and the thing is, there's the other part of like, but that's asking the guest to do quite a bit. And they're like, and some look just like, I don't want to mess around with that. I want them to do it for me. I want them to come over, take my order, and they go and they'll sort it out. And then the thing to wait to 5 to 10, like 10 to 50 minutes in a true luxury place trained really well should take less than 5 minutes, should take nothing. Should be 2 minutes done really quick. It needs to be that kind of orchestration and smoothness. So there's really that part there. So that goes into the training. So I think it's like, if you can't deliver that to that expectation for the right level of luxury guest, then QR is a good one to do. And and if your guest is willing to accept to do that, then I think implement it. But again, if you're dealing with maybe people who are like Gen X or baby boomers, they're not going to like that. That's not going to be their work. They're not tech centric. Not always. I'm not going to generalize, say all like that, but to speak generally, I have to. Statistics show that's the way that that those generations are. But if you're dealing with 25, if we're looking at Gen Z to millennial, they'll probably be more open to that. I think for sure. Personally, for me, I don't like it. That's not my thing. I don't like messing around and scrolling through and this. And if I want to customize and do that, I'm like, no, I just want to come over and do it for me, and I can carry on talking.
There's nothing like touching paper, is there?
I'm a big believer in that too. I think iPads, phones, they desensitize us massively. I think agree. So. I want to be more, for me personally. I love to be more present. I'm on my phone enough, so it's like one of those. So I think that's my counter to that, is that like if you're able to deliver the right level of service, that it's quick, it's efficient, and you can do it for the guests, they say, and the guest expectation is that we done for them, So yeah, I think it's so tricky. It's so dependent.
Yeah, it is.
Really
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's back to that freedom piece again,
yeah.
isn't it? Of freedom. I'm with you. I like to touch paper and read a menu. I went to
Yeah.
a restaurant in London, Apricity, I'll name it. Really, really good restaurant. Like food was outstanding, very much focused on sustainability. Everything that's inside the restaurant's reclaimed. Beautiful story. I went there with a guy from Hong Kong who I hadn't seen for a year or so, and we were both sat there. And for the first 10 minutes, we're both trying to read the menu on our phones. And when we asked if there was a paper one, they talked about the sustainability
Free you
thing and
out.
all the rest of it, right? And but you're right. For the first 10 minutes of our experience, we were both looking down at our phones and not kind of doing over paper. You engage more. You ignore the paper easier, don't you? For sure.
You can look, you kind of, oh, what do you see? You don't like show someone's
Yeah.
phone because you both do the same thing. And
Yeah.
that's what I like. I think that's my thing is the tech part. I think there's like when
Correct.
I really want to always encourage people to be very present.
Yeah.
I love tech and I'm a big pro tech person, but I'm like in F&B and hospitality, I want to I think it's there. You can add so much depth with integration of technology, but
Yeah.
the experience should never be dependent upon using that tech.
No.
I think it's
Right
there
place,
as a
right time.
layer to go. Yeah, if you want to have a QR code on a little storytelling, maybe a storytelling card.
Yeah.
And then say, for instance, about I had one in Est, again in Notomashi and Four Seasons, wonderful, amazing restaurant, and they did these whole card about where 95% of all the food was sourced from Japan, where it was all these really so the sourcing and the producers were so select. But then there's a QR where you can go further into it if you want to.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the thing. If you want to go more and you want to delve more and let people do, but it should never be dependent upon doing that to get at least that real core base experience that you have.
Absolutely. So swiftly on, we both got families.
Yes.
And I one of the other things that I saw from you is about undervaluing families. And I think this is one for me that definitely resonates. As someone who loves hotels, worked in hotels, I often find myself booking Airbnbs because it's easier from a family perspective. And I sometimes think we've missed a trick.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So we went to Bali. We did it. Lisbon. We've done it recently. Probably the only place I haven't is Hong Kong, and it's just because of that kind of 2 bedrooms. It's a bit more easy to go and interact with the space. You've got living space. I think the way that you can then go out and you can curate is a bit easier. But I think that we really are missing a trick with families. Especially in a luxury environment. Talk more about that, because I think this is a really interesting one for anyone listening in the F&B space.
I will love that, and honestly, it's not because I have a child that this is pulls my heart. It's I'm looking at this from obviously I can speak from my own experiences, but also I look at it from the opportunities. I really do, and there's some crazy the statistics that from looking at the research but high net worth parents, they spend 8 times more on travel than say than most single single couples, right? And the thing is, there's also it's one of the things where they're looking at there's going to be I think it's $320 billion in global luxury family travel spent by 2027, which is phenomenal. Even in Singapore, I am 1 in 34 households in Singapore are millionaire, US millionaire class. It's just it's a huge growth market, and I think everyone sees them as kids as a pain. And I see lots of places. I go to Mallorca quite a lot because I have a family there, and there's a lot of adult only hotels there.
Yes,
which is fine, and I understand. But the thing is, though, for me, it's such a and I think one great example, I think, who started really put this on the map for me. That's when I started listening was the island Shangri-La in Hong Kong. When they did the family floor, where they took 2 suites, connected them together, and made one side for mum and dad, and another side for kids, and they're connected, which is fine. But the kids side is hugely thematic, from Hong Kong underwater safari, princess garden, the princess kind of room, and this multi-layered interaction is not digital, like from hand painted wallpapers, which at night you can use a UV light and find like secret painted things. And that was amazing, I thought. And not only that, they also basically created like a club lounge for kids, or like entertainment all day, all access, like fridges with like arrays of like yogurts and dips and ready-made meals, and all to like really high quality, like ice cream hour from 4 till 5, where you could go to all ice cream and toppings. Happy hour, where they did cookies and milk and story time. They had the pantry, which is like basically every type of kids element, buggies, car seats, sterilizers, blah, blah, blah. So you didn't need to travel with them. And it all sounds like, yeah, it's a huge decision and a huge financial commitment. But when you see that the ADR on the biggest suites that they have, if you go on like booking.com now, it's 49,000 Hong Kong dollars a night, which is like equivalent very much 5,000, say like 5,500 a night. And they are booked for like the printer's room. That is incredible. And ROI will be, and the thing is, it's a huge commitment, but this tells you something, that there's something there. Because then I'm a big believer in this, is that like parents are not, you're not defined by that. Parents want more than parenting. And the thing is, you need to be acknowledged as people, and they have like, we don't jeopardize luxury in our lifestyle just because we have kids. No matter what, if you do, it's a decision you make, because you don't need to. Yeah. And that's the big thing for me. It's about the brands that can see, they want to have luxury, but it's like, it's holistic. And it's about the fact that how you can curate things for that being holistic. And I think one thing you've touched on before, room service is a huge thing for that. Because let's be honest, if you have 2 or 3 kids, going and taking to a restaurant, keeping them still, getting to eat, it's like orchestration nightmare. It can be really annoying for the guests. Room service, if you have a decent sized enough room, it's a great place. Kids love it because it's so special. I remember it, getting room service as a kid was so exciting, but it's casual, it's relaxed. They can, you can control them. And then it gives you obviously options of how you do your room service menu and the offerings there. But even like in F&B, it's a case of like, it's multitude of things. One, the team. You've got to train the team to be able to deal with children, really see them, not talk down to them. And the thing is that you've got to understand your guests and like where they're coming from. We all need help. Like, let's be honest, it's really hard. Getting kids to eat is impossible most of the time. So I went to one restaurant. They just served the food. It was like in a car. It looked like a little car with like compartments. My child loved it and was like really focused and engaged and went in for it. And it's silly things like that. But I think it's like, and it's not to say, but it's just about the fact that. And it's also not, I think also like looking outside of it, there's the kid menus. Let's put beyond just chips and chicken nuggets and things. Like there's a lot more to it than that. It's really tiring, the fact that they put things on a kid's menu. They just think you can put like really sort of not very nutritious things in it. It's okay. When actually it's really important more than ever they have something nutritious. Sure. And then if you look at the overall property, it's about how you can curate experiences holistically for families. You're out there just to chuck them in the kids club. Like, yes, you want a bit of time alone. You want to just have that for sure. But it's also about the fact that we want to have experiences together. And it's about how can the property and that brand create those memories? Because ultimately, the statistics around what kids remember the vacations, if you ask me, the one thing I remember most about my childhood is the vacations. You do. It's something incredibly emotionally triggering. And it sticks with you for a lifetime. And I think that's really powerful about that. And so it is like there's a huge opportunity, and the more that you're able to like really curate experiences and F&B around that, and it's holistic. It's not like going heavily thematic and cheesy, but it's a case of we're all big kids as well. There's a part of us that we enjoy that level of thematicness and immersive as much as a child does. This is their imagination will take it further because they haven't had it hammered out of them yet, so it's fine.
No, it's true. I mean, I remember so when we were at when I worked at the Dorchester collection, this is going back 2011, 2012. The big thing there, it was a resort hotel, and every child got its own bathrobes, got their own slippers. There was a nice amenity just for them. There was a teddy on the bed. On turn down, there was a rubber duck that was put next to the bath with their bathrobe and things like that. And it was that story building, wasn't it? And I think you're right in terms of that kind of what experience is. And I think sometimes we overthink experience and a child doesn't. So I'll give you two examples of mine. So I was in Budapest. I stayed in a 5-star hotel, boutique hotel, beautiful hotel. We got a family room. The family room was essentially 2 rooms that had like a door in the corridor that closed to make an interconnecting room, which was great. It was fine, nice and spacious. It was brilliant. Apart from on the nighttime, the corridor section of the room, which was made into a kind of entrance space, the light didn't turn off because it was part of the corridor. So all night, because we naturally had to have our doors open because it was 2 bedrooms, obviously the light was beaming in both sides. In my opinion, if you're not going to do it properly, then they shouldn't be sold as interconnecting rooms because no one sleeps with the light on. Put that into a second experience in Lisbon, it was a serviced apartment. Every morning they came, so we had the fridge. The fridge was stocked with strawberries, yogurts, things like that. Every morning they brought a little bag that hung on the door that had fresh orange juice, bread, which changed every day, and then like a sweet breakfast kind of cake pastry that changed every day. The excitement once my kids realized that every day the bread and the treat was going to change was crazy. Like every morning when they heard the bottle knock against the door when they delivered it at 8 a.m., they ran to the door to open it to look what was inside this bag. And what struck me about that is how they were called the Lisboans in Lisbon, is how they made how it became such an occasion every morning of breakfast. Normally in a hotel is one of the most painful experiences that you go through. Breakfast suddenly was this like huge ceremony for 5 days of what was going to be in there, what was going to change, how would we eat it, and things like that. And I think that's the bit around where people sometimes forget on luxury, especially in the family situation, is sometimes such simple things can create such excitement that can make such an impact onto how people have experienced or how people walk away thinking about your hotel, your space, and things like that. And I thought the attention to detail between the two was probably easier to achieve in the second one, but actually it was the one that was the much more impactful.
No, for sure. And I think you touched on something really, really like special there, Scott. I think it's like when you say those small moments, because I think it's not, I think you say, for in a child's world, you go in and having a teddy on the bed is like, it's such an easy win. To that child, it's amazing. Or if you really want to really go quick, put a balloon in there and watch what happens then. Because it's like, but it's as simple as that. And I think, but it's not just for kids as well, because I think about this, if you think about like for adults too, and I've talked about this on LinkedIn as well, which is the small moments matter. So when I went to a restaurant in Hong Kong, it was in the Ritz-Carlton, and I went in, we went to the restaurant, I was with my wife, she's left-handed, we sat down and she just just generally like interacting. About 5 minutes in, the manager came over and just said, "Oh, excuse me for a second," and he swapped the whole table setting around to the other side because she was left-handed. Wow. No one has ever done that in like the obviously the amount of time I've been with her and years for her, which I'm not going to say because she'll kill me. Say the amount of time her lifetime. No one has ever seen her as a left-handed. There's like, oh, I'm going to do that just it round, and she's so overwhelmed. And I think that's the big thing, is it's not just for kids. This goes for adults too. It's like, I see it as like, it's like compound investing. You have moments to create little moments of joy and impact, and it don't need to be big things. They can just be smaller things, but they compound over a stay. And they might, guests might leave and they might not be able to say, "Oh, it was amazing because of X or Y." They might just go, "It was just all fantastic." And you just have this feeling. I think that's the most powerful thing that really comes to us. It's these small, like, as I say, sweat the small stuff. It is really important. And I think going back to it with children is also that thing, whether it's like serve them like a sparkling apple juice in a champagne flute. And, it's like kids champagne. They want to be seen as adults. They do not want to be be treated like a child. We do that enough. We make them feel like that enough.
Yeah. So it's like, no, I agree.
Give them more again, the autonomy thing goes twice as much for kids. Let them feel like they're an adult as well, and give them autonomy and their independence, their own room key. Small stuff really, really matters.
Yeah. It kind of feel the small stuff is a really interesting point, because I think the small stuff is becoming so much more important in any experience now, let alone luxury or a 5-star luxury environment. And I think how important is that in terms of when you're building a brand and you're creating an experience alongside whoever that might be, the stakeholders? How important are those little small touches now? Because I just think, with especially here in the UK, so in terms of cost of living, people going out less. When they do go out, they're looking for more experience. And I think the small stuff seems to be the bits that people are really remembering, sharing on social media, talking about with friends. So how important has it become? Has it always been there? And how do you build it into the brands that you're creating?
I think that's also that. I think a great question. Has it always been there? That's a great question. I think it always has. Honestly, I think it's sort of developed over time about what that is and to who it is. But for me, because I love the small wins because they are it can be easier wins. I think the thing you can do like that chap in the Russia did that for my wife. It costs nothing.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, it's like salary and training that might have been done by them or someone else, but ultimately, like it cost nothing. It was just seeing. It was truly seeing your guest. And I think that's when it comes into it. Like this thing is that I'm a true believer in it, and I do a lot of work with now, and I'm really quite obsessive about is the training of the team, because ultimately, like as a if it's an interior designer or a brand, someone in branding or whatever, they do all this and then they create these worlds and then it gets handed to the team and it's on them. They have to live and breathe this thing every day, and preferably it has to come from somewhere genuine, because when you have that level, the authenticity and somewhere and care of a team member who comes to you and has this excitement and they want you to have a great time, and they're trying to like pull you into their world and this story that they're trying to tell, because it's all about storytelling. And it's like it's infectious, and I had it recently at it was a three Michelin star restaurant in Hong Kong that I was there, and it was everything was beautiful. It was so well done. It was immensely orchestrated, and I understand that maybe I'm not the perfect fine diner, but it was immensely orchestrated. And I just struggled. I wanted more chat. I want to have more storytelling. I don't want to just be told what's in the dish, and that's it. I want a connection with these people. I want an experience. And so it's one of the things. It's an easy opportunity for more of the brand personality to come out, storytelling to come out. And there was one guy working there who was 21 years old from a hospitality school in Amsterdam. And he was just fantastic. He was really excited, not giddy, just excited. And he knew when to talk, like what to talk about. He could read it, see who wanted to talk, who didn't want to talk. And he would go into it. And I just got pumped. I got excited because he was excited, and he affected my experience so much. Not not the food, not the environment. It was this team member that really did it. And you see a lot of the time when you talked about those small things, usually those times it's because of a team member. If you go on look on TripAdvisor, a lot of the time the experience is because of responsibility of someone on that team who did something that was above and beyond. Maybe it's a little thing, but I think that thing, and they'll say and special thanks to Duda who did this, or special thanks to Duda who did that, or I think so. For me, that's those small moments. And like if I take you back to brand as well, like branding, I think little amenities can go a long way. I think when you look at like the easy wins of a really great like coaster, matchbox stick, kind of like menu, you can do such little things in there that if you bother to look and see, there's all these little like aha moments. And it means that when you come back you get more of them. I think those are really undervalued, like even like the like shampoo in the shower. I think there's like all little moments that you can do, and little rituals, even if it's the case of being housekeeping team going to the room, see 2 pairs of shoes, one yoga mat used, the other yoga, and there's only one yoga mat for 2 pairs of shoes there, and maybe they're like, oh, then they put in another yoga mat, and then they maybe leave a little note, all those things of being seen, noticing, not like robotic. And I think that is the thing, is like allowing and training the team to be able to have that autonomy to work that in, and actually have that as a big, as KPIs. What, like, have that, like, what did you do to really impact a guest? That's the KPI. And if you don't
100%.
like be able to come in every round of service to say, oh, well, actually I overheard them say this, or I saw that, so I did this, I think, and it gets into that whole, like, the idea of like unreasonable hospitality, and but I think, for me, the small moments usually come from the team. And so I work a lot with brands on that kind of immersive brand immersion and training and workshops.
I think that's exciting, isn't it? I would really back up the piece that you said about celebrating those moments as well. We're working with Hilton on some brands at the minute, and what we're baking into the briefing sheets and the pre-shift briefing is we've changed the kind of the briefing sheet into being something that carries all the way through the day, and the team have to celebrate. We've created some service rituals. So one of them was the art of generosity. We're creating one at the minute that's moments that matter, and we always transfer that into the briefing sheet, that then people write on there what that was, and either the same day or the next day we celebrate some of those bits that happen. Because I think, back to your point of, when you give people autonomy, when you give your team autonomy and freedom, I guess back to that bit about guests having freedom, but when you give the team freedom to be creative and to go all out for the guest, some things that they come up with are just so great that you want other people to take inspiration. So we were working on one restaurant opening, and we were doing the pre-opening training. And as part of that, one of the team members, and he was a part-time guy, just really enthusiastic, loved the brand, talked all about, he was like, how great would it be if when everyone left the restaurant, we all just said goodbye? And it was so simple, but go through hospitality today, if you're listening to this, and see how many times people say goodbye as you leave a coffee house, a restaurant. It's becoming rarer. And I stood there and listened to him, and I actually thought, do you know what? If one of our values is that we just say, everyone, whether you've served that person or not, says goodbye, what an impact that could have as someone's leaving, because people will notice that. And I think, back to that small moments that matter, celebrating success and really kind of getting your team to bring that curiosity and that freedom is so key to delivering that. And I love when you talk about the words immersion and things like that. I just think it's exactly how you create great brands and great storytelling, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. And I think that's a great example there, because in retail, that's standard. You're like, regardless, if they come in for 2 minutes and they leave, it's like, thank you, they'll say thank you.
Yeah.
So I think it's also, you say, it's about saying goodbye. And also, I think and thanking them, like saying thank you so much. And you say, have a great day, and that kind of thing there. Because I think also, like, I think it's the thing is that you have to put the fact that, as you said, like, times are harder for across the board and these things. And so, and regardless, they'll also, whether they're maybe they're really, some people is in harder positions, or if they're in living high and everything, life is great and they're very, very wealthy. Everyone's worked hard for their for their money, and we should always value that and never take it for granted. I think that's the big thing, is that, so where it goes into bad territory is when we take, we really, like, we need to see value in the money that they're spending, because ultimately without this, it's like there are no profits and there's a failed business. So we need to, like, appreciate every single guest and show appreciation. Maybe each brand has its own way of doing it, but it's about really doing that. And even for me, anywhere I go, I ever see anyone in a shop or whatever, and they'll say, usually, like, you have it's like, oh, hi. I say, hi, how are you? And I guarantee 9 out of 10, they just look really shocked, because they're like, wow. I'm like, no one's asked you that today, have they? And the thing is, you see, and they can see their face lights up, and, oh yeah, I'm actually good. I'm like, great. And then I'm like, now we can talk business, or now you could like, I want to buy this thing. And I think that's the thing, is when you truly see people. And yet it goes the other way. That's just like a different thing. But so
me and my ops director have a pact. We always ask people the name. Doesn't matter where it is. We'll always say, what's your name? And they'll say, I don't know, my name's Scott. And you say, okay, Scott, like, can we have some sparkling water, whatever it might be. And we always do a big thing on that because it's just really important, isn't it? But I've got two last questions to ask.
Please, do it.
The first one is, how important is storytelling?
That's a good question. It is the most important thing of all.
Okay, I've got three questions. Why?
Yeah, I think no. No, look, like this is the oldest form of communication we've basically ever had is through stories. And the reason why stories work so well is because they emotionally resonate within us. I think that's the big thing. It's like you can give someone a fact sheet or you can tell them a story and you can take them on a journey. And I think it is the most thing. And it's also, let's be honest, it's what people want. Like as you said, life is tricky right now. What the world that's going on around us is messy. It's always a bit messy. So the thing is, when we have guests come in or in our hotels or in our restaurants, they don't want to think about those things. They want to come in and they want to have fun. They want to maybe like escapism. They want to just go and they want whether it's in a restaurant, you've got 2 hours. I see the comparison I'll give you very quickly. Going to restaurants like going to the cinema. You got there, you got 2 hours to be taken on an emotional journey and come out the other end going, well, that was fantastic. With a hotel, I compare it to a TV show. You have multiple episodes, which are daily things. So you've got to equate this experience and storytelling to serve that. You've got 2 hours in a restaurant, 2 hours to make an impact. You like Disney do it great. They'll just kill someone. And that's how it goes. Like Anna, Elsa, and Frozen. They're there. Oh, mum and dad die, and mum's dead. 5 minutes in, instantly emotional connection to the characters, and that's how they successfully do it. Not that we're gonna do that in a restaurant or a hotel, but it's their effective way of emotional attachment, and it gets it very quickly. So it's the same thing in a restaurant. You've got to get an emotional connection so quickly, and whether that again, I think first impressions count. When you set the tone, when that guest comes in, and you really set it high. Excuse me, and you really immerse them into the story and get them excited. And, that part there, that quickly gets them thinking, okay, I'm here for something's going to happen. I'm here for something that I'm going to get a great experience because it's already like it's happening. Again, that's through language or whichever else it may be, or a welcome ritual, whichever one. And then again, for the hotel, you have a longer time like we do when you watch, if it's example, White Lotus, who drag things out the longest time of all, but you get to understand these characters, their story, and every day is an opportunity to give them a new experience and go more in depth into your brand, just like you do with the TV show. You get more in depth into their characters. So the element of storytelling is absolutely key. It's just depending on how long you have to tell your story. And between restaurants and hotels are very, very different. And we talk about restaurants, and also let's be honest, first impressions are everything. And it is one of those things there. So you've got to do it, and you've got to do it really well. It's a lot of pressure in the F&B industry to do that. You really do. And competition is so high, so high. So, and I think that's the big thing. Compared to a hotel, you've got a little bit more longer to do this. And, if you have a few slip-ups here and there, as long as through the duration, you have more time to make up for it. In the restaurant, you mess up once, it's really hard to claw back from that. You have very little time. So you got to then even go more above and beyond. So, and I think that's the case of you just need to figure out what type of a storyteller you are. Yeah. So I think, is it service? Is it through the food? Is it through the vibe? Is it through all of those all come together? But I think it's what the guest now expects. And that's a key word. It's an expectation, not a choice of whether, shouldn't we? You've got to do it. Because if you're not, you will want to play at world-class level. And this is what's needed now. And it's the harmony. It's not just food, it's not just the environment and the design, it's not just the service. It's now a point where you have to get them singing this wonderful, it's like a choir with a wonderful song. They're all singing perfect harmony, and that's where you can you come away, you're thinking, well, it wasn't specifically this or that, it was just fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah, for me.
No, I love that. I think that's a fantastic answer. Last one, and people listening, if they want to get their ears onto some trends of kind of what's happening in the luxury space and what they should be thinking about, it could be anywhere, maybe hotels, maybe food and beverage, but what are some of the things that you're seeing the most with what you're doing?
Big one I've been talking about, and I was fortunate, I had a chat with Skift about this in the interview the day, a big one, which is dinner parties. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's a timeless tradition. It's where the hospitality you used to get when you used to go back,
Yeah.
you know, we're talking about, it's like 1930s, 40s, probably not 40s, 30s and 20s. But is that like the fact is it's so considered. The hospitality used to get people's homes. It was really about you, the curation of people put together, the food that was going on the plate, the environment, the flowers, everything. It was your home, super personable. And yeah, it was a big thing about being judged. And it was, but the thing is, like, the standards were so high. Look at, you used to wear a tux to go around someone's house for dinner, but how wonderful and romantic in a way. Like, that's the thing, and maybe it is a bit of nostalgia and romance, but and I'm seeing a lot of brands starting to do this now. You're seeing this happening like at Chateau Marmont in LA and other ones that they're starting to but it's taking it further. Again, a lot of storytelling. What's the story? It's curating essentially like a scene to be in. And you come in and they curate a wonderful amount of people together. It's not all friends, it's people that they think will really complement each other, maybe around a theme that they're wanting to do there, whether it's around industry, whichever industry that might be. And then around the food, are we doing chef led? Is it the chef's grandmother who was the one responsible for him cooking, and she's no longer with us, and it's all the things that she made as a child, and it's like different chapters of his life, maybe through when he was like 5 till 10 and 10 till 15, and and the different stages of his life meant different things, and those were dishes that were around that. And then in the music they choose, the entertainment. And the thing is, that is something which is truly powerful, and it's something I'm seeing this coming back around, and people want this like sort of old way that it was, and it's sort of more personable, really immersive. So I think definitely like there's that part there of the trend that's coming in, and the other big one I'm definitely seeing more, I'd like hugely, is this brand collaboration, which is going through the roof right now. And I talked about it recently. I think when you're looking at obviously there's the merch part there. Like, I think big thing that I see in a lot of brands really struggling with is because there are a lot of these, especially legacy brands, is that they've stand true that these are incredibly like pillars of industry and luxury, but then the new guest is coming in, and the thing is, when new guests coming in, culture is impacting everything so greatly and moving things at such speed, is that they are like, the way I see it is that you've got these huge legacy brands that are like tankers. It takes them half an hour to turn on the engine, and it takes them however long just to turn the boat around and get it out. What you need now is to be essentially kind of like a speedboat, because culture changes so much. Look at what White Lotus did in culture. It's affected hospitality in huge ways, and the expectations from them. And the thing is that brands now need to have enough flex to be able to move with culture, take opportunity of these things happening in culture, but stay true to their North Star. And one way I've really seen that is, again, merch has been a really successful way of doing that, by collaborating with certain part there, whether it's like high sobriety, sporty and rich. I think it's like these guys, you're getting a lot of these like really, sort of amazing collaborations, and you're creating these sort of fantastic immersive merch that are becoming as sort of sought after as the latest Chanel bag or Hermes bag. Like they become like status symbols in themselves. But the main thing is, it speaks to a new generation of guests. And this is the big thing that's happening, is this new generation of guests coming in. And it's like, how can I connect with them while not alienate? Like, I see it as like, imagine mum and dad's coming to the hotel.
Yeah.
Next thing you need, son and daughter to come. They're like, I'm not going to stay where mum and dad stays. I want to stay somewhere more of a vibe and more of this. But again, so you could be fortunate if you look at Aman, they have Janu, like they create a sub brand. We're working with Oberoi at the moment on Trident, which is their sub brand, which is going to be another one that speaks true to a new generation of guests. And it helps just to keep the lines a bit clean. Yeah. But if you don't have the opportunity to do that, how do you connect through? And it's a simple thing of like this merch part. It's not just merch. It speaks far more to lifestyle and says more about you. And the great thing is that they can coexist in two planes, if you need to be, because it's very digital. And then if you're looking at, we talked about before, Gen X or looking at baby boomers, they're not massively digital. So you can kind of have two worlds coexist. So again, I've been like really looking at that part there, as well as looking at how you can create more collaborations to help to, it might not just be not through merch, whether it's through different types of activations or experiences, and to be able to sort of make more relevance to a younger generation. But you'll need to find a way to connect with them. So I think for sure collaboration is one of the biggest, I think, strongest it's ever been. I think obviously pandemic really helped bring true to that, like the power of collaborations. We can't all just be like all in it for me. We've got to you got to spread the love, and you got to see how we can, and I talk about this as well, co-authors. We're all trying to tell a story. But who's the right the co-author and the co-narrator for your story that's going to tell it, but tell it maybe slightly differently to a slightly new guest? I think that's the big thing. So off the top of my head, to tell you now, 1, dinner parties, 100%. 2 is looking at this like co-authors and collaborations. I think is 2 really powerful trends.
I think that's brilliant. It's been a conversation where all I've done, I can feel it throughout, is smile, because there's been so many points through it that's just resonated so much. And genuinely, I've loved like watching your LinkedIn posts. I'd recommend anyone to go and search Oliver. I'll put the link in the show notes as well, because someone who's working in the space and has worked in the space for a long time, I'm learning lots from it. So Oliver, I really appreciate your time coming on, and thank you very much.
No, Scott, honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure. I probably talked too much, but that's just it's just me.
That's all right. No problem.
I've really enjoyed your, and thank you also for sharing a lot with me, because I say this genuinely, I learn a lot from what you're talking about as well. So thank you, and it's been a real pleasure.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
You've been listening to Hospitality Huddles, brought to you by Auden Hospitality. If you want to revisit clips from this or previous episodes, make sure you visit our YouTube channel at Auden Hospitality. Thank you for listening to the show. See you next time.